Hello,
Great.
Jimmy. How are
Hi.
you?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
That's great. Uh, it looks very sunny and light in your background. At your
I,
apartment.
I'm the not the apartment that where you took my photos last time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in my studio
Oh, I
in the
see.
yes, it's on top on the rooftop. The
Oh,
studio
that's
where we're in
mhm.
that documentaries that they filmed.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah, because I recognize the hanging the wall hanging at the back there where you're sitting. There's
Yeah.
a yeah, I could yeah. But it's a beautiful apartment. It's a beautiful studio that you have there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and you do your teaching there as well, because I saw that wonderful piano you have there.
Yes. Yes. It's a very ancient old piano. It's
Oh,
built in 1890, 89, something like this. It's
oh, I see.
130.
But it's beautiful, yeah.
I
So Jimmy,
sometimes I teach at home, so
oh, okay. Um, so Jimmy, yes, you were right. I photographed you and your voice that day and for the project, and it was so lovely to meet you then and your boys as well. They are so lovely. Um, but it's great to talk to you now again and tell me what is new and what are you doing and concerts that you are planning now?
well, it hasn't actually. I haven't been stopping doing what I've been doing. Of course, I practiced and preparing concerts, and during actually this past year, been doing some small like mini house concert as well.
Oh, okay. Mm.
So in the at someone's villa and like with really Abstand and things like that.
Mm.
Trying actually, I have always trying to keep music alive.
Mm.
Then of course with the Vienna Boys Sängerknaben, we also keep rehearsing, even though it was reduced, of course, with a lot of Maßnahmen, regulations. But otherwise, we try not to stop. And so the boys has been rehearsed.
Mm.
It's just the progress is much slower, and especially for the new boys and new coming boys, that's
Yes.
been just new to us. It's been difficult because um, for them to get the routine that most
Mm.
other boys, older boys that we used to have, where daily practice and constant concerts and mass at the whole Musikkapelle, and those are the things that's missing, of course.
Yeah,
But
that's
sorry.
no, that's what I think we don't realize and talk about enough. And that is this the students and the children, the and especially for the boys like the Vienna Boys Choir, they have a very different type of schedule, and of course it's the choir, and there's some things that are very traditional happening in a specific way, and then of course now you have to change and to adapt and all that. How was it for the boys during this time?
Well, it's of course it's not easy because they have to adapt also a new way of study and learning,
Yeah.
because the whole school system changed and everyone has to now do online, and they have to adopt new way of like handing in homework.
Yeah.
And including my own boys, I have two sons, and they're also struggling in the beginning that to forgetting, you were expecting all of a sudden our new generations to adopt this kind of new way of life way too early.
Hmm.
um, and I think it's I see it as a kind of a danger as well, because I think we all of a sudden just being forced to change this way of
Hmm.
living without actually preparing psychologically and physically as well, because then everyone has to have a computer now at home,
Hmm.
and this kind of way of living, and that of course affect the kids, especially their energy level and motivations of doing their hobbies,
Yeah.
you know, because so worn out by trying to figure out every day how they cope with the school. They lost interest in a lot of things sometimes. And this is the thing that I, you know, trying to keep up with the rehearsals with boys and try to motivate them. And and it's not just actually us. I think in general, as an artist, we take it for granted that we just always have something with concert and we love music, but we the kind of routine that we have to practice every day, we underestimate why is this. It's not just, you know, people just, oh well, practice make perfect, but it's not just about that. It's about the routine and that the kind of readiness. The readiness is say, well, now maybe it's audition reopened, then you got to get a chance. If you're not ready, then someone's going to catch you up.
Yeah. And also going back to the boys, I think this teaching music or singing through Zoom or through you know, this online way is also very difficult because of the connection. Because I think it's very important also the connection that you have with these boys, or any music teacher have with their students.
Yes, well, for sure, because well, we're of course lucky because of our institution is this special things about Vienna Boys, and of course we're professional. Let's say, at least we were allowed actually to rehearse live.
Oh, okay.
But in mask, and also with, you know, sitting apart and you know, in a bigger room, and all these things has to be you know, required. But otherwise, I have to say it's nothing to compare to say now we can do Zoom or, like, you know, to have online. I mean, we could maybe do once or two just for the fun of it. But after all, you know, even a lot of big orchestras, they're doing online concerts and things. I mean, it is nice to watch, and of course the whole productions it's a production.
Yeah.
But it's not an experience. I would say experience has to be live, and the direct vibrations in the air that towards you can never replace by anything else. And of course there's many more factors around during a concert or during a live event, not just a concert, is to say that, you know, the people that are around you, combined with on the day where you do it, and then the hall, buildings, you know, even if you're singing sunny day or you're singing on a rainy day, it affects. And you know, I see this often with the boys when we're on tour, because we sing the same program anyway, many times, every day maybe the same, but it will never be the same, because the kids psychologically every day are different. Then you have different audience. Maybe the audience is more warm just right in the first clap that you hear. It affects the whole concert.
Amazing. Yeah.
And if you feel a little bit cold, then we end up want to please them more. Then we might push a little bit more, you know. But these kind of back and forth, it's what makes a live event so exciting and different.
That's amazing to think of that. You never realize these things as an audience member, that it can be felt like that, you know.
It is, and I don't know, maybe the audience will maybe not so consciously, but they also affect, of course, because then it's the Chiang effect.
Yeah.
You feel when you walk on stage, there are some stage more cold, there's some stage more warm, and you can feel it. And then once you come in and you already see smiling faces, or you see, you know, they're clapped, maybe some people are more emotional and they scream already for the boys. Then the boys become all of a sudden happy that day. Yeah. And then when they, you know, maybe some more, let's say they're not like, you know, negative, but some audience are more reserved, let's say, and then they need to warm up. So the first half, they're always less. let's say, okay, clap, or, you know, and then later, finally, they get into it, then they get more. Then you can see the change in the boys' body movement even.
Yeah.
And their faces. And so these things affect, and of course, the more they become more involved, then the audience are more warm.
Oh, yeah.
So these things, you don't, there's no way you can substitute, replace by, you know, using electronic, you know, techniques. It's a different way. I'm not saying good or bad, but it's
Yeah.
never, you cannot replace.
Yeah. I actually spoke to the director of the Drakensberg Boys Choir in South Africa, and it's also a boys choir that you know, it's a specific age group where the boys are there and they sing in the choir. And now, of course, I'm thinking, and I've also spoken to him about this, about the whole audition process now, also for the new boys coming in, you know, and for the older boys leaving, that final year for them was supposed to probably be also a highlight. But now that in that year of the, you know, the lockdown, of course, this was all different.
Yes. Well, this is it's unfortunate. It's a pity for a lot of kids, and I mean, we have many of those situations that some people waited for 4 years to be on this certain tour. For example, we have tour to Japan, and everyone look forward to it because it's a really, most of the time it's a highlight, you know, to how often you get to be invited to Japan and stay there 2 months and do 30 concerts, and some kids waited 4 years because we rotate. And so some people had gone already, some people has to wait until this year, but exactly on this year, get canceled, and some kids just don't, you know. And
that is sad. Yeah, that's yeah.
Of course, people underestimate. I mean, at the end, you have to accept fate.
Yeah.
But the impact sometimes impacts much more. For example, I have a kid that is from China, and they were supposed to go to China, and that was last year, and of course pandemic, and they stopped. But the parents, they were looking for, because each kid will have one chance to each country.
Yeah.
Because we rotate, and they anyway have only 4 years. That, you know, no matter how, and their voice normally change anyway. So it's something that it makes you pressure more, like, you know, things that it's only that. It has the time limit. You pass, you pass.
Yeah.
And yeah. And for me, sometimes it's it gives you much more perspectives about life.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's I'm always thinking we talk about so much about, you know, the economy that's been affected, and yes, the arts overall being affected, but I'm really feeling for the young children, and for you know, like I say, the students in art, because they are so on this very specific level of going forward and going into the industry. And
absolutely. In fact, this is really, I often talk, and also actually talk with the boys. I mean, of course, I can't change much by myself, so I can only hopefully, you know, encourage the young to stay strong. But this is actually what I think our society must really face, and really hopefully get to be even more majority to think like us or whoever. I think we need to think longer term, as far as how to cope with a pandemic, or like even just react to this situation. I think when there's problem comes, we cannot focus. We should not just focus on the problem. We need to focus on a bigger picture, and what would be the impact later. And because we're talking about a whole race of generations, and that you cannot waste that. And because this race will affect the rest. And that is a bigger pandemic for me, rather than just a virus. I think we have a bigger pandemic of a psychological virus going on right now to a lot of us, rather than just physical. And you know, as you can see, even I can tell you from experience, from even just a group of kids, because we have 4 years of, let's say 4 generations in our choir. It's always the younger ones, and then go up. And we always have this continuity until now. There's a certain break, because the young ones missing a lot of more performances, and they learn much less than the rest of them. Of course, we can only see it right now. It seems not such a problem. The problem, one have to always think, in 4 years later, these will be the 4th class. These will be the older one, and they would have missed something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a hole, there's a gap. And this is the thing that we need to actually start thinking. What is actually the consequence?
But this is what I also thought about, even with musicians and singers especially, and also dancers, for example. You know, in this time where say, for example, a singer that couldn't use their voice the way or the amount of times that they did, if this really, and you know, physically also we've all changed, because we had many restrictions. But if this would change sounds, you know, if it would change also orchestras playing and people singing, and of course with the choir, if you say now that the first year you will see the effect in 4 years' time, that it would change the sound of the choir.
Well, it's very likely. In our case, of course, I think it's way. Anyway, with kids, there's always the variable factors of you know. Anyway, they're all different human beings.
Yeah.
They're all different individuals. So of course, during my training with them, of course, I have considered all these factors that, you know. So I would have to try to get them to still learn about the sounds of how I want it and things like that. But I think I don't know, in the other fields, I mean, orchestra, there's more stability, of course, because they don't rotate, they don't change players often, yeah. And the technique on the instruments are more or less more stable than a singer's. Singers' voice, their instruments change every day, because the instrument is the body, and the body change due to hormones and and everything. And so, you know, like most singers would say, every day they have to build the instruments at the same time to use it. And so, you know, technically it's a totally different approach. And of course, in that case, to a lot of singers, professional singers, even when they are out of this routine, when they're not constantly on stage, they are out of practice. And even though their practice at home is different than if you're an opera singer that you have to sing on stage with the movements, and constant of daily like you know, routine repetition and staging rehearsals, and those are the things that would affect the future.
But and also now talking about your concerts that you did during lockdown, the smaller concerts that you say, the living room or the home concerts that you did, did you was this a different connection for you to playing, you know, like in big halls and so on, to have a smaller group?
Well, I have done this, I mean, of course, in the past as well. I mean, this has been actually a Vienna traditions as well. I mean, since Schubert, you know, the famous Schubertiade. It's actually from the Schubert's times even, that they will get together with, you know, the society in Vienna. You know, it's kind of a social gathering, in a living room. And then Schubert just starts sitting down and play and or like start actually producing his songs. And this been traditions like that of house concert. And in fact, there's still, I think, I don't want to say only, but Vienna is definitely one of the top or like one of the few country or cities that still have this tradition, and people will appreciate that. And that people would actually rather come or at least prefer to come to in a smaller, setting. And of course, for me, it's especially during the pandemics, there's something that to keep me going. And there, in this kind of settings, you are also good to meet with the audience in a much closer way, because you can see them better, and you can see the face, how actually happy, how glad they are able to still hear music. I mean, if you imagine in the past year in Vienna, all the concert halls are silent. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. It's really meaningful. And of course, then we normally in these settings after the concert or after some music, we have chance to talk. Or then they will have also questions about your music, about your life. So it's a totally different connection.
Yeah. I actually, it was the first time, and it was also, well, it was by the end of lockdown, I was invited to a small concert like that, a living room concert, and I loved it, because it was this, I like this contact, this closer contact, and also talking to
I'll let you know, actually.
Oh, that would be wonderful. No, I absolutely love it, because I think it's this, I like this connection, between the smaller group and the connection. Yeah. So Jimmy, what is your concert? Tell me about your concert in your coming up. Yeah.
Things in fact coming up. My private one, I have one in Mood, which is the concert hall of the Wiener Sängerknaben, on the 14th of June.
Yeah.
7:30. It was originally because this season 2021, I actually had a concert series of 3 concerts. The first one we did it because it was during the second lockdown in November, and we did it only online. We tried it. It was a trio, and it was successful, but it's only online. Then the second one, which is in April, we watched in April, but of course then it came third lockdown. Unfortunately, that was canceled. That was supposed to be with the Wiener Kammerorchester, chamber orchestra. Okay. And there's also a piano concerto. So the third one is supposed to take place in June now, June 14th. But there's still some changes because I was supposed to be with my former professor from the United States, Krasmira Jordan. But she is over there, and she could not come.
Oh no!
Moment. So exactly, and we were supposed to play piano 4 hands and like a really great program from Rhapsody in the Blue to some Russian,
Oh wow! Oh, that's a pity.
Russian school, and I also stay, directly from the, the Russian school playing. Anyway, so I changed now the program to I invited another fantastic artist, Maria Radutu, and she plays also a lot in Vienna, and we will do 4 hands. But the program we now switch because of the pandemic, we are not supposed to have intermission. So we're just gonna have 2 really nice piano concertos. I will play the Beethoven Piano Concerto number 3. And she accompanied me. And then the second piece, she will play a very interesting modern composer, Schnittke Piano Concerto, which is composed, I think, 1960. And I will accompany her from the orchestra part. So it's a really big contrast, Wiener classic and Schnittke modern. And so, but still remain to be, it's got a piano duo, 4 hands evening. So, yeah, so that's the closest one coming up. Otherwise, I'm invited in summer to conduct Carmen in Italy
Oh, that's wonderful.
in an opera festival end of August. So I'm also very looking.
And yeah, because it's the traveling thing that's at the moment, I think, for everybody a problem, because it's the quarantine and the restrictions also with traveling.
Yeah.
Is everything okay for you to be able to go to Italy?
Well, so far, but of course, after such a long, let's say, year of many changes and things, I stopped thinking because
Yeah.
it's like the regulation and restrictions will always be updated every week.
Yeah.
So we don't know actually what's going to be happening even next month, and if things are going to actually loosen up or are getting tight again. For example, actually with the Vienna Boys, we are also going to Spain in July. We will perform there in Burgos, at the cathedral there. And so, so far that's not canceled. We're set to go, and the plane tickets are bought. So.
Oh, then that's fine. Yeah, because I think this is what somebody also mentioned in interviews that I did about lockdown, was this feeling of excitement of, oh yes, we can go, and then just a few weeks before it's this, no, we can't go, and then it's again this, yeah. You know, and it was that type of thing that started getting to people, not be very cautiously excited. Yeah,
it's true. It's true, and unfortunately, I have to say, we are at the time that now we unfortunately we're not in a complete freedom.
Yeah.
Of course, that I think it's a false hope, false expectation of we ever get a complete freedom of life. But in one way or the other, we are still controlled and we are still affected, by decisions of others. And so in that case, I think we need to have this realization, or that really be aware of the reality. And I also have the same feeling now. I mean, that whenever I have to think about even doing vacations or even with my boys to go out, it becomes now such a sometimes have so much consideration. And before you even do anything, all the considerations and regulations would have already, let's say, demotivate you to want to even step out the door. And I think this is not good.
Yeah.
And that's why I meant, I think it's not the fright, or it's not the Angst, it's the afraid of actually getting sick, but rather you just don't want to get into trouble. And it's not just me. This is not just simply with trying to be the one who ignore the virus or ignore the sickness, but it's more about it affect actually much bigger, much more than.
I think we're all living under this awareness the whole time. You know, it's almost everything you do, you have this little side thought in your head, but you know, there's a virus. And I think this is the thing that you're talking about. It's that psychological thing that you always think about and always aware about when you plan.
But I mean, even deeper is to say, I'm not saying let's say, it's not that I'm starting to consider, oh, what if I get it? But it's more about, oh, I have to bring this documents. Oh, I have to get tested. Oh, am I vaccinated? What about this plane? How long should I quarantine? All these things that comes with, and then when you want to visit families, even internationally, or like you want to bring a friend over, it's such a process that you would rather be separated. It has changed our life.
Mm.
you
Well,
know.
I know exactly what you mean, because I had to we decided to go out for dinner one night, and I had to be tested, and I waited too long, and by the time I had to stand in a very long queue to get into the testing, and I actually took a video of this queue and I sent it to my son, and I said, I hope the meal tonight is going to be excellent, because I'm having to stand in a very long queue just to be tested. So yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but Jimmy, I want to ask you now, do you have a pre-concert ritual? Is there something that you do before a concert uh, that's sort of a habit or a ritual?
Um, uh, I had many actually. I think it all depends where, what program, and what am I doing, because
Okay.
um, of course I mean, maybe you have read or whatever. Um, I'm quite versatile in my career so far.
Yeah.
I play still active as a concert pianist. Then I conduct opera, orchestra, and then of course with the Vienna Boys is totally different categories as well. With them to be on stage together. So let's say with the Vienna Boys, I have less ritual because there's so much, so busy. You have to prepare the boys, so I cannot prepare myself.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay. Yeah, yeah.
And in that case, the ritual is to make sure the boys are on the spot, and or like
Mm.
make sure the timing is right. That where we have enough time to. It's in every venues is different, where you need to line them up, and where how the stage door is arranged. So those things occupied my brain so much that as long as I get dressed, that's fine. And there actually some incidents that I'm so busy, or like the kids sometimes they just love to ask questions. They keep knocking on the door like, what are we singing, or like what do we start with, or whatever. They just keep forgetting that there one. I think at least one time that I actually forgotten to put the bow tie on.
Oh, okay.
I was changing, and then I walk out there. I just realized, oh, I have it on for the first
Oh,
half.
okay.
Well, things like that. But
Yeah,
otherwise, if by myself doing, if I'm let's say before a solo concert,
yeah.
I do take more longer. Let's say I need to. It takes probably a day. On that day, I don't really talk to anyone, and I let's say do a lot of slow practice, very slow and calm, like really stay really intellectual, try to go through all the pieces like in your head,
Mm.
um, and then maybe have a nice meal, but more like sushi in
Okay.
that.
Mm.
So I won't eat anything heavy.
Mm.
And for me, sushi is always the best things actually for pre-concert.
Oh, okay.
So that's easy to have, and it's fish. You get energies, and but it's cold. You don't make yourself
Yeah.
too stuffed. So that's how has always been my. And some agents, some managers, they know that they always prepared for me
Oh,
before.
really? Oh,
Always,
your sushi. Yeah.
yeah, in my garderobe, and so it's always nice when you go into
Yeah.
the room and you see something that it will help and give you it give you joy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, deep breathing, and I it changed as the years, as you grow older and you get more experience.
Mm.
And I will have to say now it's more about just simply knowing, again, go through your scores and just stay calm. It's
Mm.
like stay really, really intellectual, like really not emotional, like save the emotions on stage.
Oh, okay. And listen, in the lockdown time, did you do anything interesting? Did you do, like hobbies or any uh, cooking or some strange habit?
Especially with my sons, and then we not much. In fact, I mean, you call it lockdown, but actually we have been active because the kids still have school
Oh yeah,
and
of
you
course.
and we have rehearsals. So I every day there's always something going. And
Mm.
one time we did I mean like 2 weeks ago we went to fishing.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, we caught like some fish, and then we come home and then we cook them. And so
Oh, that's wonderful.
a hobby of my older son.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but fishing, you also need a lot of patience and I think calmness and I actually read once that and I don't know if this is scientific, but women are better fisher at fishing than men
Because they're
because
more patient.
apparently I'm not, and as I say again, I don't know if it's scientific, but apparently the fish can feel the or sense the string, the line,
Really,
and if a woman holds the
the line.
the fishing rod,
Yeah.
then the line is a different vibration or something. Yeah.
Well, I believe there's some science in it for sure. The
Yeah.
energy maybe.
Yeah, well, I haven't fished yet, so I cannot say if if I would catch anything.
Yeah, I'm not also not too good, but my sons are, so they're.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, but that's wonderful. But Jimmy, this is now so wonderful to talk to you. And I and very lovely insight about your life and as also what the the boys choir, and I really admire you for the wonderful work you do there. And I think it's also in this time the important part that the teachers play, and also the you know the at the university as well and at the schools as well, the teachers who motivate these musicians and the singers. I think you have a very important job there.
Well, yes, yes, indeed. I think my job is trying to keep music alive, first
Yeah.
of all, art alive in culture, and more that with our school. I think people underestimate how it's not just an entertainment. I mean, people may just think that you are the entertainment or just for talent people, but at the end, whoever learned, you have to go through a process, and this process is a creative process and a discipline process that actually needed for every field,
Mhm.
for being a doctor, for being a lawyer, for any other things that people might think it worth more. But you cannot live a life without creativity and without discipline. And this can be achieved immediately by having a kid learning music, because
Exactly.
because you need that, and it doesn't matter. They don't need to be musician. They don't need to earn with the music, but that skills I think is important.
You know what, that is so my uh, passion to think that every child in this world should be able to study some form of art, and as you say, they don't have to become musicians, but you are so right about this discipline and about all the positive things that they can get from just learning an instrument.
Yeah, because
Mm.
because it comes with so many things. I tell you, what for like some examples, like it's not just about, oh, you have to like patience, or like those are the superficial, even I would call it,
Yeah.
or like, yeah, you have to practice hours or things. It's not about that. It's about even things into, if you study music, you have to be open to criticism.
Mm.
And I see that, for example, nowadays, a lot of new generations kids, either they spoiled at home or their parents don't do that enough. that they have a hard time to take criticism
Yeah.
or being corrected, even though someone corrected them very nicely. And that's we don't think it's a problem if you learn music, because you're constantly looking for something better and you want to strive for better result. And that should be human.
Yeah.
That's what makes humans. A cat won't do that. Of course, they love their lives, but they're not going to try to make lives better. And to always strive for perfection is human. And that's what I meant.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, and I think also this culture of trying to accommodate children in everything, instead of just giving them the right tools to learn these things, and it's almost for me as if in schools they use music and art as a side project and not as a valuable, important project. And I'm thinking of your boys as, for example, when they go on after their training or after their schooling there, they go on in other careers, possibly, not all of them probably become singers, but they maybe go in other careers, but the foundation and the learning that they had with learning the music will give them the skills to do other work as well.
Well, definitely. We have mostly, no, they don't always go to music. In fact, it's actually very little percentage that will actually continue to drive for music, but they are mostly successful in their other fields as well, or they become let's say they are more confident about what they want. So it does make a difference. I mean, of course, they're still individuals, it's differently, they build differently. But it's let's say we don't talk about the guarantee, but we talk about the motive behind it and impact, and only compare what if they didn't have, that sense.
Yeah, I really hope that by talking about this and by, thinking how we can try and change that so that every child could have the possibility of learning, as I say, some sort of art in schools. I think it's so important that we give the children this opportunity,
Well, I have to say, this has to be changed, not from us who already know.
Yeah.
It has to be from those that actually has more direct impact, which is the parents and the school teachers. And it's unfortunately, it's very often, it doesn't matter whether here or back in Asia or in America, there's a lot of times the music teachers, or like, let's say the art teachers, has differences between them and the rest of the teachers. Or they always trying to fight the times, fight for the importance. And of course everything is important, or like, there's something, let's say more important or less important. But this is very often like that the case, that the music has been always, like you said, like kind of on side dish. And it's all probably the presentation. The presentation is like, well, music after all is only entertainment. So if you're in music, then you prepare, let's say, an annual show for the school. This is the purpose of it. Seems like that. But as I always said, even to some of our kids as well, not all of them are really that talented, and they're not prepared actually for even being in the choir musically. When I call that, and that means to say, let's say even rhythmic, or reading notes and things like that. And as I compare, if you look at the mathematics, or if you look at other languages, you can't just go straight into a language without learning the ABCs, learning the speaking and learning the right and things like this. but we never talk about music like this. We never talk about music being, well, if you learn music, that means you need to learn how to read, you need to learn how to write. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, those are, and it's not just, one should not just think, oh, well, only if you are going to the musicians, then do it. But that's yeah, it's a conceptual, and it has to be neutral in more family settings, and that the family at home, the parents has to have this sense that they would want to nurture them, at least talk the importance of it.
Yeah, but I think we've come through this like you say, it's almost like a chain reaction where the less music is played or learned or studied, as the generations carry on, the less and less importance it gets. Because I think also years ago, people sang more as families, for example. Now it doesn't happen anymore. And now, parents push the children to do maths because the maths and the science would bring entrance into a university. And if you hear things like that, then you think, where did this change? Where did this importance in these subjects change? And yeah, I think definitely it has to be something that we have to speak about. And well, I just think I talk about that a lot, because I think the more you plant these seeds and the more you make people think and talk about it, the more energy can start, or maybe a wave of energy that people will start thinking about that, and that they will come change.
Well, I'm totally with you. And I think this we should talk more about.
Yeah.
But hopefully, one day will be more a majority. And
yeah.
And again, the talking, we need to talk more into the, as I said, if we only talk about the musicians, we anyway agree.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that we're still like kind of an outsider. When you talk to the government, when you talk to, the education system people, they have to be the one who understand.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
They have to say promote it, because we are in such a society nowadays. People only believe and convinced from what these authority and media says.
Yeah.
And it has to be from there. Because once they are behind, they support it, then things change.
Yeah.
There are some countries managed, because as long as the country believe in it, then I mean, Austria and Vienna has already a little bit different, or they already at least sort of support as compared to other countries and kind of cities. But still, we are facing also a risk of going the directions that is away from culture.
Well, I just take for example, South Africa, because I'm from South Africa, and there's one big theater for opera and for ballet, and the people have to move out of the country to come to Europe if they want to pursue a career in the arts. And this is also what I spoke to the director of the Drakensberg Boys Choir about, that these boys, there's not a lot of opportunity for them, even the ones that do want to sing, when they leave the school. So that is a country that used to have many theaters and not, and this is what happens, when art is not valued in a country, and the theaters start closing. So we cannot just say, well, it wouldn't happen, because it can very easily happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It can easily happen. It just sneak in slowly and slowly.
Yeah. Jimmy, can you
So
see a positive coming from this pandemic already? Can you see something in the industry that you think it, it was actually
what
a positive?
definitely, I believe always in everything. There's always positive and negative. Maybe that's more a Chinese philosophy.
Mm, mm,
But I always see, you know, kind of it's two sides. It always comes together, and I think the positive side is that we are at least aware, and I'm
yeah,
sure that see, I think it raised already some, you know, I think in the public, or let's say in the general audience, that they realize, wow, what they have been missing.
yeah,
This for sure, there are people who realize that, and
mm,
I'm sure it will come back slowly.
mm,
You know, when they feel more safe. Um, and as far as from I think from musicians' point of view, we, at least for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that the positive side is that we do have a break,
mm,
which is really rare sometimes. I mean, for the active one, let's say, or like at least above average, that we kind of have a break and look back on our art and maybe, let's say, practice again, or maybe try new songs, try new pieces, and things like that. But the downs and negative sides of it, of course, it does affect a lot of people. I'm lucky because I have a job. There are a lot that actually is no job, and it's really hard on them.
yeah,
It's really hard on artists when I have also lived before this job that for a while that is what we call freelancing,
yeah,
and it's hard enough without a pandemic because you're gonna pay bills, and if you have families, you know, it's crazy. Then, you know, and things always get behind, and once you get behind, you know, it's piled up. Then you some all of a sudden feel like a huge mountain that you know can't cope with.
mm,
But the pandemics really, you know, worsen it for
yeah,
some. I mean, I've been coaching with opera singers that, they feel they couldn't pay me yet because, you know, and I can understand that because, you know, they said they haven't been on stage for a year where they used to be active. You know, they are, you know, they're not really famous, but they are kind of well known, at least, you know, in Austria. And I mean, it's hard.
yeah,
It's hard enough to have to know when is the next show, or like if it's get canceled again, but they still have to prepare. And that's a lot of people don't realize, because we have to so often, it's like working like a credit card.
mm,
It's because we have to work first before we get that.
yeah,
And you know, people just think, oh, you're just using your time during the performance.
mm,
No, those 2 hours is, you know, I don't have to even cash you for those 2 hours. The income is for the work before those
mm,
2 hours in order to make that 2 hours work. And those are the work and the years of training that is unpayable somehow.
mm. I know, because I spoke to somebody, an opera singer, who told me about a role that took a year to study, you know, or to prepare, not, yeah. And I think to myself, a year, and then only then you are on the stage and then performing it. And I don't think people always realize this. I didn't realize it. My insight only came from talking to artists, you know, and this is why I'm doing this, so that we also hear about these things and understand that better, you know, that it's not just going to a concert and seeing all this wonderful, glamorous and talent, but that there's a path before that.
Well, there are a lot of hidden costs that it's not just about the institution, but the
Mm,
hidden cost even upon each individual's artist that's needed to even get out their own pockets for it. You know,
mm,
okay, if you're in a theater, or like even these boys with me at the Sängerknaben, of course we have a system where we practice every day. So as if like if you have someone actually, what do you call Nachhilfe, like
Yeah.
Tutor. You have a
Tutoring.
tutor every day working with you. Of course, you will succeed. And at the theater, you have a tutor, which is called repetition, a repetiteur, where I work with the singers. But some singers don't, or they don't. They are freelancing, preparing for a guest production. Or if someone that is, let's say they need more even than that, they might not get everyday coaching. Then you have to pay for each coaching, and sometimes for a certain piece, if you have to do it often to repeat, like with these boys. You know, some of them it's a repetitions that make it work. Because once you're on stage, you have nervousness, or you have, like, you know, something that affects you, so you cannot allow to be less. So if you want to achieve 100, you need to prepare to 150, so that on stage you can still have this 50% of being nervous.
Yeah.
So that you can have 100% to reach to the audience. And so those are the factor and the things that's why we're worthy, let's say.
Yeah, this is really an insight that I am very privileged that I could try. I hear from every person I speak to, I hear different things that I just think, wow, you know, this is such an amazing thing to be an artist, and all these things you have to go through, and we don't see it, that we don't know that unless you are in this world of being an artist, you know. So but Jimmy, this was so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, and is it okay if I post this on YouTube?
Of course, it's okay. It's okay.
Wonderful.
I actually would love to really to share this actually with everyone, what we talked about.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. This is, you know, it was a wonderful insight and wonderful points you raised as well. Yeah. So have a lovely afternoon with your boys in your beautiful studio. Or are they at home?
They're at home right now at the moment.
Oh, okay. But have a lovely Sunday afternoon.
Yes, you too. I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jimmy. Bye.